Still to come this Friday night, spice up your life with Emma Bunton on Would I Lie to You at 9:30, and have a chat with a former Doctor Who on Graham Norton at 10:35. Now on BBC One, let's see what news they have for us.
Good evening. Welcome to Have I Got News for You? I'm Richard Ayoade. In the news this week, Conservative Party members deny their system for voting in their next leader is outdated. As the odds shorten on a snap general election, candidates of all parties are prepared for the reception they'll receive when they start door-to-door campaigning. And with his publishing deadline only moments away, David Cameron is forced to make some last-minute revisions as his literary agent drives him to the printers. On Ian's team tonight is a woman whose two main interests are comedy and serial killers. Well, she'll enjoy watching me murder some jokes this evening. Please welcome Kiri Pritchard McClean. And with Paul tonight is not only the presenter of Pointless, but has just written his first novel. So that's what he's been doing on that laptop during every episode. Please welcome Richard Osman. And we start with the biggest stories of the week. Paul and Richard, take a look at this.
Theresa May, yes, the leaving of the woman who was Prime Minister. This at Coney Island, 1927, five-horse race. There's some people without the horses running. There's the man who has police protection every time he walks his bike across the road. And that's some footage from a car chase in 1968.
There we go. Is that enough for you?
Yes. Theresa May's resigned, made a speech and managed to keep it going all the way to the end when she sort of, like, started crying and everybody started laughing.
Now there's an enormous race to succeed her.
Yeah.
So to succeed her in literally the worst and most toxic job imaginable.
Yeah.
The sort of job you'd have to be an idiot to take.
Yeah.
And so there's a huge field of candidates.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. This is the race to become the new Conservative Party leader after Theresa May finally announced her resignation last week. Let's remind ourselves of her speech.
The second female Prime Minister, but certainly not the last. I do so with no ill will, but with enormous and enduring gratitude to have had the opportunity to serve the country I love.
He's got to take the bins out now. Yeah. With her in them.
It's a double whammy, isn't it? Because every time I've been made unemployed, at least Jeremy Kyle was on. What's she gonna do?
I mean, it's literally Homes Under the Hammer. That's all left. That's all.
It's interesting that you mention Homes Under the Hammer because there was some great controversy.
Well, this would be live footage was put in instead of Homes Under the Hammer. Was that the complaint?
This is it. All those fans who are expecting, and there are a lot of us,
Yeah.
to watch Homes Under the Hammer.
Yeah.
This is a programme about property auctions, Ian, and not about the attempted mercy killing of Eamon Holmes.
Although the second option would get more viewers.
Yes. As a clearly emotional Theresa May began to speak, Munster Becks tweeted, "May can't even resign properly. She could have waited till after Homes Under the Hammer."
But then you've got Here Come the Sheriffs, and after that is Bargain Hunt, so when do you resign?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know there's a whole world I'm missing?
Yeah, it's called the 21st century.
Daytime TV.
Yeah, exactly. Lord Helsham had been producing the Jeremy Kyle show. Ian would be in it.
I mean, there's a slot free there now.
Yeah, there is, actually.
Ooh, you'd be great at Jeremy Kyle. Get a job. I could see you doing that.
Boris Johnson is the favourite to replace Theresa May, but what might stop him?
Well, the party members love him, but the MPs don't like him. You've got to be in the top 2 to get put to the party members, and the MPs don't like him so much. Pretty much every Tory MP thinks he's an arse, apart from Chris Grayling, who thinks he's an elbow. But if he gets in that top 2, he will definitely be our next Prime Minister, which is a heartening thought, isn't it?
Isn't it just?
It's a lovely prospect.
I blame this programme.
Why?
For making him nice and accessible. I blame you guys.
Have you never seen this show?
If you look at the history of the show, nearly everybody who's been on more times than Boris became Prime Minister. Ken Livingstone, yeah. Charles Kennedy, yeah, absolutely. They were all there. Germaine Greer, first female Prime Minister, all our fault. You put someone on the show a lot of times, it's our fault. I mean, I didn't vote Boris in. I thought he was absolutely unsuitable and unfit for any office. The whole of London, Europe's biggest electorate, votes Boris in twice, so don't blame us.
Also, that may not be the reason why Boris doesn't get in.
He's been charged with lying, hasn't he?
Yes.
With falsifying, with the big bus with the figure outside that was something like £320 billion a week goes through Europe or something like that. So
We'll have to be careful or they'll cut this out, and I don't want anyone to spoil the fun of thinking Boris is going to go to jail for life. Which, so, at the moment, we're just at the preliminary hearing stage.
Oh, right, OK.
About whether, when he was a public official, he was telling lies and therefore abusing his office. It should be an interesting trial. I mean, very similar to putting the Pope on trial and saying, are you a Catholic? He was sacked from then sacked from sacked by his own reprimanded.
Ian,
Yes.
we're not allowed to say anything that might prejudice the case.
Well, that's absolutely fair enough, because I would like him to have a fair trial with a desirable result of him being imprisoned forever.
Without wishing to prejudice the outcome of the case,
No, because we mustn't do that. I'm not saying he's guilty.
would you like to see Boris Johnson?
Let's deal with your arguments. One of them is on the side of this bus. We send 350 million to Europe. We don't, and you know we don't. No, we don't. You know we don't.
No,
Admit that that figure is grotesquely misleading at best.
I won't.
The true figure is 161 million, correct?
No, the true figure is 350 million.
In
pounds.
net terms, the real figure is 161.
If you take out the abatement and the money that comes back, the UK money that comes back via Brussels, the figure is obviously lower.
Matt Lucas is so good. At the last count, there were 27 candidates for the Tory leadership. So would you like to have a fun quiz about them?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll show you a tiny part of a photo of each candidate, and you have to buzz in if you know who it is.
Yeah.
Is the first? Yes.
Is it Esther McVeigh?
No.
She's got very hairy wrists if it is.
It's Matt Hancock.
Of course it is.
Oh, Matt Hancock.
This is Matt demonstrating his brilliant technological innovation from a couple of years ago, the Matt Hancock app, a social networking site named after him. The problem with the app was that if you launched it, you got this rather creepy message. Matt Hancock would like to access your photos. Some people had jokes at his expense.
Oh, no.
Anyone who fancies beer tonight, Matt Hancock me. Do not Matt Hancock me. Next, who's this?
I don't know.
I think that's Sajid Javid.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
Or the Sudge, as no one calls him except himself.
Yes, it is Sajid Javid. It's a cheap shot to mock Sajid Javid because he's short and has a shiny head, and the Sunday Times weren't above doing that. There you go. And then there's the live-action Gollum, Rory Stewart. What's wrong with this? Rory Stewart with phone in queue.
Hi, this is Rory. I'm now in the slightly absurd setting of Kew Gardens. I'm here partly because as a DFID minister, we're doing some very interesting work with cocoa farms.
It's not his hand, right?
Right. He's pretending it's a phone. It's clearly someone else, but he's still extending his hand. Someone tweeted, "Are you pretending to hold your phone?" He replied, "Yes."
You know the best thing about Rory Stewart?
Yeah.
You know what his real name is? Genuinely.
Go on.
His real name is Rod Stewart. His real name is Roderick.
Shut the fridge.
He's called Gordon Brown's real name was James Brown as well.
Yep.
Well, there would be confusion there, wouldn't
there
there?
wouldn't there, yeah.
Between him and the Godfather of Soul.
Very similar.
I bought an album once, you know, greatest soul hits of the 60s. It was Gordon Brown.
Theresa May.
Yep.
Real name Brian.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the Tory leadership campaign to be the next Prime Minister. This week, Boris Johnson is facing a private prosecution alleging misconduct in public office. A source close to Boris said that the private prosecution was an attempt to crush the will of the people. I think over the past 3 years, that's already been done. Ian and Kiri, take a look at this.
The Virgin Mary.
It's the Liberal winners. Oh, there's a man wondering which direction to go. And there's a windbag.
Which UK parties did very well in the Euro elections?
The Brexit Party, they
Yes.
stormed it.
Yeah.
They got a very, very large number of votes. And the main parties collapsed.
Yes.
So Farage, Widdicombe, that's the sort of government you want. Then fine, it's panto. All year round.
We've had the referendum and everyone thinks we're just going to crash out in October anyway. So they're doing mad stuff and voting for mad things. You know, like when a plane is going down and people just start kissing strangers. It's like that, except instead of having an orgy, people are voting Lib Dem.
Not enough of them.
As ever, some voters chose to do something unusual with their ballot slip. What did a voter in Leicester do with theirs?
They cut it up into little sort of paper figures. So when you unfolded it with little paper figures?
It wasn't that.
No.
Although I wish I could have seen it.
It's a good idea, though.
Yeah, that's
It
what
is
I'd
good.
do if I lived in Leicester.
Well, according to The Guardian, one ballot had wank written in every single box, apart from that of the Green Party. The voter left a note saying, not wank, for the Environmentalist Party, which was deemed acceptable as a vote. So, which fresh new face is now MEP for the South West?
Anne Widdecombe, is it?
It is Anne Widdecombe, who came out of the coffin to run for the Brexit Party. Here's a giddy widdy after her victory.
Only one reason for voting for us, and we have topped the poll, whether you like it or not. We are going to be the biggest party in the UK delegation at the European Parliament.
What is she doing, Johnny Rotten?
Yes.
Well, she's lost it completely, isn't she?
What is she now demanding, and why might she not get it?
24-hour nursing care?
They want a seat on the negotiating team.
Exactly. She told the BBC's Hugh Edwards, when we go to Brussels, we will say that we want a role in negotiations, to which they'll reply, there aren't any negotiations. They've just finished. The Lib Dems did well in the elections. Who voted for the Lib Dems?
Alistair Campbell.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tony Blair's former communications chief, Alistair Campbell, who, as a result, was expelled from the Labour Party.
This has got a lot of people very annoyed. They're saying, you know, you don't throw people out for anti-Semitism, you don't throw Ken Livingstone out for suggesting Hitler was a pretty pro-Zionist kind of guy. None of that. But you throw Alistair Campbell out because you hate him and he's a Blairite.
How did Labour stalwarts react to the news that Alistair Campbell had voted for a different party?
Well, a lot of them did that sort of Spartacus thing and said, I voted for the Liberals as well.
Yeah, even Cherie Blair said I wrote not wank next to the Liberals.
How did Shadow Foreign Secretary Emily Thornberry respond?
Did she vote Brexit?
She said, we were not clear on the one single thing that people wanted to hear, that Jeremy Corbyn had resigned. What phrase has the Labour Party used to explain its Brexit fence-sitting policy?
A mistake?
They have referred to it as constructive ambiguity.
Oh, yes.
Oh, my God.
Yes,
if I was a drag queen, that would be my name.
Yeah. It's also how Gwyneth Paltrow moves forward in relationships. What is Lib Dem leader Vince Cable still planning to do in a fortnight?
We're still going to go.
Yes, he's going to retire as leader. He said, I think it's much better to stick with what I decided. I haven't wrestled with it. Neither's anyone else. I don't think that leaving on WTO terms sounds too bad, although that's because I don't know what it means.
You share that with everybody else.
Oh, good. It's one of the
It means that as soon as you crash out of Europe, you have to go and renegotiate your deal. So the idea that the minute we leave Europe, we're free, we're not. We're straight back saying, can you help us out? We need to do a deal. Except we're in a worse position because we haven't done a deal and we're not a member. So we're really begging. Rather than taking back control, we're more or less saying we give up.
Good game show format?
Not bad. WTF rules would be better.
This is the fallout from the Euro elections, which saw victory for the Brexit Party. The Sun's handy guide to new Brexit MEPs included Dr David Bull, who first came to public attention as host of Most Haunted Live. So presumably it was through him that the Brexit Party got in touch with Anne Widdecombe. And so to round two, the strengthometer of news. Fingers on buzzers, teams. Here's the first one.
It's the story about sat-navs.
Yes, there was a driver that wanted to drive to Paris and put it in a sat-nav and put the wrong destination code in and ended up in Germany.
You were right. This is an 81-year-old man who's trying to drive from Newcastle to Rome, but got a bit lost. How did the unnamed 81-year-old, never been named in his life, how did the unnamed 81-year-old get lost driving from Tyneside to Rome?
Did he go to Rom?
He did go to Rom.
He dropped an E.
Yes, he dropped an E.
Shouldn't
like
be that
the
when
shaman.
you're driving.
Went to Rom.
Yes. It was a pilgrimage, and he was hoping to see the Pope.
Or the Pop.
Yes. Either works. But he misspelled Rome in his sat-nav, as the kids call it, and so ended up in Rom in Germany. According to the Times, he realised something was amiss when it occurred to him that he couldn't see any of the famous landmarks and was instead met with views of the dense black forests of the North Rhine-Westphalia. It might not have the Sistine Chapel, but can anyone name any of the major local landmarks and tourist attractions listed on Rom's Wikipedia page?
The Pencil Museum.
Not the Pencil Museum.
No.
Would you like to see the Wikipedia page?
Yes.
Yes, please.
What's Dave Smith in The Sun had to say all about this?
Bring back national service.
Bring back hanging.
These are all
He should
very
be
strong...
dragged behind his own car.
These are all very strong ideas. But Dave wondered, did he not stop for food or fuel? Then surely it would have been obvious, with everyone wearing lederhosen and eating sausages and drinking beer instead of eating spaghetti and drinking wine. Dave, a man from the 70s. What happened to him when he arrived in Rome, this unnamed man?
Did he get a line on their Wikipedia page?
You'd hope they'd update it. When the hapless bloke from Newcastle arrived in Rome and stepped out of the car to look for the Sistine Chapel, he forgot to put the handbrake on and his car rolled back and knocked him over with the open door before knocking down the road sign for Rome.
I've just realised who this is. It's the Chuckle brother that's still alive.
Yes. This is the unnamed man from Newcastle who drove to Rome instead of Rome. The pensioner said, I've been to hell and back, which is a town 300 miles west of Rome in Germany. According to the Mail Online, when he found himself in a town called Rome, not my favourite jam song, ironically, he forgot to put the handbrake on. Surely that would only be ironic if he'd found himself in a town called Handbrake. Fingers on buzzers, teams. Here's the next one.
It's Trump.
And the Queen.
She's pretending she's not there.
Yes.
He's on his way, providing he isn't impeached first.
I would like him to get impeached, but what if he gets impeached when he's over here and stays? So we want him to be impeached, but after he's got back, I think. Otherwise, he'll be holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy for the next 5 years.
Imagine what his hair would look like when he came out. This is the news that Trump is coming to Britain next week for a perfectly timed visit. How has Prince Charles been preparing for his meeting with Trump?
He's wondering whether to talk about climate change or not.
That is one of the things. According to the Express, he's had a team of people search his house for anything that might cause Donald Trump to take offence. Like literature. One item they've removed from the living room is a photo of Barack Obama. And from the kitchen, an old El Paso Mexican fajita kit.
Is that why Meghan's not meeting him?
Well, that is something, yes.
She hasn't got time. She's very busy.
Homes Under the Hammer is on.
Yeah.
Other than his views on Islam and climate change, what else emerged this week that could make Trump's meeting with Prince Charles a bit tense?
He wants Shag Camilla.
That's Prince Charles, not Trump.
Yeah.
He had a thing about Diana.
He did. An old interview has resurfaced in which Trump said, "I only have one regret in the women department, that I never had the opportunity to court Lady Diana Spencer."
She's been through enough.
Palace source told the paper Charles has more than enough experience to prevent any diplomatic row, although the Times added Charles will be taking on the role usually carried out. Where has Trump been brushing up on his international diplomacy this week?
Japan.
Correct, in Japan, where he went to see some sumo wrestling with Japanese leader Shinzo Abe. They're all wearing one of his ties. What happened when Trump got into the sumo ring himself?
I mean, I know what I hope happened.
Yeah.
Well, he presented a trophy to the winning wrestler. Here it is.
I mean, that's just a normal-sized trophy. He really does have small hands.
Yeah. This is next week's official state visit by President Donald Trump. Meghan has got out of having to meet Trump on the grounds that it's too soon after having given birth to her son, an excuse that the Queen also tried, even though Prince Edward is 55. This week, Trump has been on a state visit to Japan. It went well, apart from a slightly awkward moment when Pearl Harbor was mentioned and Trump denied that he'd ever met her. Fingers on buzzers, teams.
WH Smith has been voted the worst shop in the high street yet again.
This is the news that WH Smith has been voted the worst retailer in the UK for the second year running. What's wrong with WH Smith?
Everything. Everything's all over the shop, literally. And it's...
Well, that's good. You don't want everything in one plate in a shop. It'd be piled up.
My worst ever Christmas present came from WH Smith. My dad bought me...
Right, you can buy him in there.
Yeah. My dad bought me a Christmas present from there, and it was a write-your-own-will kit.
If you go just in the door and then to the right, there's, just by the till, there's this very good magazine, which is...
WH Smith's loyal customer base say that they think it's so bad they've devoted a whole Twitter account to it that posts bad reviews of the store. One eagle-eyed shopper spotted a slight issue with the pricing of this chocolate. 2 for £2, or 2 for £3, or £1.29 when bought separately. The sales clerk was Kafka. And 25p tax disc. Yes, a holder for an item that no longer exists. Why was Harrods in the news this week?
The first unexplained wealth order.
Yes.
To try and find out where people who come to this country and spend billions of pounds in Harrods actually got it from.
That is why they're in the news. Zamira Hajiva became the first person in the UK to face a so-called McMafia court order, which is aimed at sniffing out corruption and unexplained wealth.
Didn't she spend £330,000 in the sandwich shop in Harrods?
She should have got a meal deal.
She spent over £6 million on jewellery, £251,000 on toys, £30,000 on gourmet Belgian chocolates, £11,630 on tea and coffee in a single day, £6,165 on gift wrapping, and £2.18 on cheese. They are competitive at the cheese desk, aren't they?
You can't spend that money on tea and coffee in one day, can you?
You can if you use a big Sports Direct mug.
What has city financier Guy Hands been spending all his money on recently?
Gloves.
He's admitted to an alarming addiction to roast potatoes. He's jonesing for these roast potatoes and has even admitted to having hypnotism to cure it. He said in the Times this week, "If I went to a restaurant, I'd ask for roast potatoes and gravy. I'd eat 10 roast potatoes easily. Forget the rest. Just give me roast potatoes and gravy."
Is he passing this off as an addiction, as opposed to just being, like, northern?
I hope you're not trying to poo-poo what is a very serious medical condition.
I'm sorry.
He hates potatoes. He just can't quit them. If you've been gripped by a potato addiction, as I have, you wouldn't be joking about it. You've got to sauce the spuds, you've got to peel the spuds, you've got to get them fluffy. so that they absorb the oil. You've got to roast the spud.
No, you haven't. You just go to M&S and you buy the pre-done one.
For a decent roast spud, Ian, get real. Time now for the Missing Words round, which this week features as its guest publication Aerostat, the magazine for hot air balloon enthusiasts and who isn't. And we start with what and what are a surprisingly successful combination?
Ant and Dec.
Is it Ian and Crystal Meth?
I've never met her.
It is hot air ballooning and cider.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This is an article from Aerostat magazine about a business which offers people the chance to drink cider in a hot air balloon. What could possibly go wrong? Next, what in River Thames sparks bomb alerts?
Bomb!
I think I know this one. Do we get a point if we actually get it right?
Yeah, that's how...
Wow, that's late in the day to suddenly do like that. Wow.
You know how quizzes work?
Not really.
No.
Not really. I'm used
It's not really your area of expertise,
Not
is it,
really.
Richard?
It was an enormous Christmas bauble.
Yes. Are you saying that you've been withholding right answers up until this point? The answer is a giant Christmas bauble. Here's the bauble. Tower Hamlets police were ridiculed for taking the threat seriously, but to give you some idea of the scale, here's how it compares to a double-decker bus. And finally, Greek restaurant charges tourists £740 for what?
Controlling stake in the Greek economy.
The answer is calamari and beers. A group of holidaymakers has accused a Greek restaurant of overcharging for their calamari starters, saying it's a good job we didn't order the souvlaki.
Souvlaki.
Souvlaki. Saying, could I do that again? But, you know, like a human. A group of holidaymakers has accused a Greek restaurant of overcharging for their calamari starters, saying it's a good job we didn't order the souvlaki. Why have I... There you go. Souvlaki. It's just souvlaki.
It's a good job we didn't order something that wasn't on the menu.
I know. A group of holidaymakers have accused a Greek restaurant of overcharging for their calamari starters, saying it's a good job we didn't order the souvlaki. Thank you.
Now, that cheer's not going to make any sense to anybody watching this. It sounds like the whole studio wants to go, I wouldn't have got it either. Good move.
I live for those pity cheers.
Yeah.
Finally, someone's mentioned souvlaki.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
is great.
The tourists were shocked as they were only expecting it to be a few squid. Thank you. So, thank you. So the final scores are Paul and Richard 8, Ian and Kiri 5.
Oh.
Wow.
And I leave you with news that, following last week's European elections, Labour's victorious MEPs gather for a celebratory get-together. In Somerset, after McDonald's stops selling milkshakes, one quick-thinking protester improvises for the visit of Nigel Farage. And at a death metal festival in Wiltshire, the crowd are thrilled by Slipknot's new lead vocalist. Good night.
Humorous look at the biggest talking points from the news. The Ranga Nation is available to watch now on BBC iPlayer. See Stacey Dooley, Alex Jones and Joe Brand in unseen material of Would I Lie to You, next on BBC One.
Sometimes when you love someone,